Welcome to Straight Out of Savannah. My guest, Lori Marie, is here. Lori Marie is the founder of the Eighth House Mystery School, a vision that came through during a period of deep inner listening and intentional creation. Guided by intuition and a lifelong connection to energy work and astrology, she followed that calling to build a space centered on community, connection, and conscious expansion. In her personal work, she's the owner of Divine 24, and Lori Marie shows up for her clients as a quantum shaman, astrologer, and published author. Her passion is working with individuals around the world, helping them reconnect with their inner knowing, shift their perspective, learn to co create reality, and move into greater alignment with their lives through the understanding of coherence. Her work bridges the intuitive and the practical, guiding others into a deeper understanding of themselves and the reality they are creating. To learn more about Lori Marie and the Eighth House Mystery School, visit divine24.org, eighthhousemysteryschool.com. So, Lori Marie, let's talk about it. How did you get to this place where you decided that it was in your on your journey to open the House Mystery School?
Yeah, it wasn't on my agenda at all, actually. It's super interesting. I've been studying various ways of helping people rewire their brain and change their perspective because when you change yourself, you change the world. And I channel journal and I was channel journaling one day and popped up out of the blue, literally Eighth House Mystery School. And I remember being lit up saying, yeah, but then I heard Spirit say, "But not yet." And so I was like, "Okay, that makes sense." So I put it off to the side, and the messages I continuously got were foundation, community, and connection. Those were gonna be the basis of what was gonna make the Eighth House Mystery School successful. And so I just allowed all the right things to just show up when they needed to show up. I listened to my hell yes and went that direction when it came. And one day I teach ways to rewire your brain. And so I was doodling and I doodle a lot just to release stress or overthinking. It's the best way to release overthinking. And I found myself drawing a pyramid with orbs around the edge. That was one that came all the time. And one day I was like, I'm going to cube it. And I cubed it and kept doing the orbs. And I just kept drawing that. I just kept coming through. And then one day I added energy in the middle of it and it all just came flooding through. And if you look at the image behind me,
Yeah.
that is what the spirit showed me, which is a manifester. It's like a portal of energy that manifests when the energy goes from right to left, and then it's a vacuum. And so it sucks in or clears away that which you send your attention to if you do it the opposite direction. And literally, I started using it, and I'm a firm believer that's how the Eighth House Mystery School came about. I was like, I have to make it my logo because it didn't even exist before the idea. I think that would be the best way to sum it up is that the universe just said, it's time. And I listened.
That's awesome. You said something in there. You talked about channel journaling.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to say, can you share a little bit about that? Because I've never heard that term before.
So let me start off by saying that I'm a firm believer that nothing belongs to us. And everything that comes through us is source. It is the universe. It is all it is. It's creation.
Yeah.
And especially when we are doodling or writing, and here we are writing a story or a poem, and we think it's ours, but really we're just tapped in and we're allowing creativity to flow through us. And so when I channel journal, I basically talk to the universe and go in very big detail about what's going on. And then I ask for guidance. And I'll do lots of different things. I'll either listen and feel and hear what comes through, and I'll write that down, or I will pull a card and see what messages come through. And it's really uncanny, like how accurate it is. When you know you're tapped in and you have that trust and that faith, you can't go wrong. And so I constantly feel divinely guided. My daughter, she laughs at me because I'll walk up to timers right when they're going off, or answer the door right when somebody walks up, or think of somebody right when, like today, the pool guy walked past my window and I was just thinking, I better not let my dog out. And then he walks right past my window to go into my backyard. When you allow and flow, divine timing is all around you. And that's just being tapped into source.
I love that. I love that because I actually do that as well, but I did not know there was a term for it. I've been doing it since I was young and I didn't even.
Anytime we create, anytime we are, and when we're young, we're very tapped in, right?
So you guide people to reconnect to their inner knowing and co-create reality. How does reclaiming spiritual authority change the way we experience midlife transitions from uncertainty to coherence?
It's interesting that you bring up the uncertainty portion because yesterday I was doing what I call my meditation walks, and I walk and I listen to high vibe content. And yesterday just happened to be a day where it was all about Alan Watts. When I'm walking and I was listening to him, tuning my monkey brain out and listening to his words, I was really tuned into his speech patterns and the way he spoke and the way he captured people to listen. The things he said were so matter of fact and so relatable. And so I was like, I want to go home and I feel called to bring something through, create. And when I did, it was on the topic of uncertainty. And I was like, how come when we were young, we were okay to just flow? We played out in the yard for roly polies. We didn't come in unless we were hungry for a snack. And then when we did come in, the sun was going down. And then we jumped in the bath, dirty from a long day. And then we went to bed and we fell asleep with ease. And we didn't overthink. We weren't contemplating what was coming next. And so where did we lose that? Right. And
Yeah.
so I think that really we just, as we mature and grow, we think we have to be a certain way. We think things are important. And if we don't focus on that importance, we've forgotten how to play and be innocent and have fun. And so I think that we really need to learn from. I think that any parent or anybody who's worked or been around children, we learn so much through them, through their innocence and through their wanting to just be silly or have fun. And we should go about our day that way, right? We should not, maybe we do have a job, but do we have to take it seriously? Why can't we observe what's happening and then play around with it in a creative way to create a solution and allow that solution to come about on its own and then not go to bed at the end of the night wondering, uncertain, and creating stress that we don't really have power over? Why don't we just flow, right?
When I heard that, it brought up this song that I just love, and it's this young lady. Her name is Aniko, and she has this part in the song where it says, "I don't need gravity, I just need flow." And I was like, so when you said that, that was what came up for me. Is yeah, that's all we need to do is we need to stay in that flow. I believe that it's a frequency that we carry in order to stay there. And so what I know is that sometimes it's hard to hold that frequency. And I think that the work that you do helps people to hold that frequency so that they can create, so that they can see a different future for themselves.
I try to remind people who they are first, but that's not an easy thing to grasp with our upbringing or our programming. And so that's usually my first direction. But then my next direction is self awareness and helping people just find the tools to get to know themselves and what works and what doesn't work. And then I lean toward tools of like how, because everybody wants to know how. How do I do that? How did you get there? How do I do? And there's so many. And that's one of the awesome reasons we have the Ethos Mystery School is because right now we have 20 instructors and 5 are international. And each and every one of them comes in with their perspective of how to achieve things. There's so much support and guidance there. And I feel aligned with so many souls doing the same type of work, helping others on their path. And yeah, it takes a tribe to raise children, but it takes a tribe for us to grow and expand too.
Community is so important in
I
this.
don't think people realize how important it is because we live in a world that chooses for us what we see with social media. The algorithm tells us what to see and what to look at. And then our neighbors or our coworkers or family members are all telling us what to focus on, what they're talking about. We need people in a community where we could talk about consciousness or we could talk about mandala effect and it being normal, or maybe you're okay with aliens, or maybe you feel like you have ADHD, but nobody around you believes you, right? It's just a safe place to just be you.
And that's what's so needful because there are not that many safe places to just be you. Because most places, they don't really want you to be you. They want you to be somebody else, them, or whatever it is that they created. And you're like, "No, that's not me." And
Yeah.
I love the way you use astrology.
Oh, I love astrology. It's my
Yeah.
second language.
I'm so excited about that because it is not mine. I learned a little bit and I'm actually looking at my natal chart now because I think for me, it was religious wounds because it took me a long time to actually be able to really start looking at it and understand it and then see how it applied to me because I was born on November 1st. So my big three are Scorpio, Pisces, and Leo.
So you have a lot of water, but thank goodness for that fire. And so definitely the effects of right now are affecting you. And I say that because first off, if we're going to talk astrology and make it relatable to everybody, let me just start off by saying why it's so valid right now in our time as we watch craziness happen in the world outside of us.
Yeah.
It's because all the slow moving planets, which are the ones that we can see the most patterns and are the most impactful in our charts, right? Every single one of them change or is about to change signs this year. So Neptune and Saturn just went into Aries, and Taurus just went into Gemini, and Jupiter is about to be in Leo. And if you think about it, that doesn't happen. They all move at different rates. Usually you'll go through an era, and this year Pluto went into Aquarius, and this year this happened. But we have a year, an entire year where literally every slow moving planet changed signs. And so therefore every human is being impacted differently than they have been up until this very moment. And so that is the catalyst for the biggest awakening. And that's why I said to you offline, is that the collective consciousness is peeling away layers right now. They're dealing with their shit, and we have to just sit back and watch it. And all we can do is deal with ours.
That is important. That is important because you're right. You look at all of this chaos around us, and not just here in our country, because you know that if there's chaos in our country, there's chaos in the world. And it's because I have I have a friend in Australia. She said, "Girl, the same stuff that's going on there is going on here." I said, "Yeah, I kind of felt that." I said, "But I'm glad you confirmed it." And same thing with my UK friends and all that. And so I listened to that. And you're right. That stuff affects me so hard. And I have to tell my husband sometimes, okay, so I can have two pieces of that news today. After that, I don't want to hear any more about it. I don't want to see any of that. I've curated my Facebook page so that I don't get most of that stuff. I'm like, I want to see good things and I want to see things where people are helping people and where we're coming together as a human race. I want to see beauty, yes.
Community, because when I had my podcast a few years ago, I got really deep into studying NDEs, near death experiences. I was listening to this amazing podcast where toward the end of his NDE, he actually saw the future. And what he described was like an aha for me. It was like that is where we're going toward, right? And where everybody didn't necessarily live necessarily clustered where they were raised or where they grew up, but they clustered in tribes in different areas around the world with people that their energy aligned with. They were in their own environment, and it was so beautiful. And I'm like, I want to be here for that, or at least help pave the way for that. And so when the universe said community and connection, I'm like, yes, let's create that here. And it's an international school. I have an instructor. His name is Reverend William. He's in West Africa. I have somebody who is a medium instructor. She's in Australia. She's a friend of mine.
Awesome.
And then I have another friend in Slovakia and Slovenia, and then the Reverend Lilith in the Philippines who teaches healing. And it's just having those places there. I want to invite their cultures in and our cultures here and learn from each other and just create that bridge, right?
That's powerful because that is needful. Somebody I was like, I was a nurse for 32 years. I said, I've taken care of every single culture of people. Every. I had to think about that one day. I actually sat and thought about that. Every single culture. And you know what I learned? We all bleed red blood. And if you need it, it doesn't matter what color the person is or what culture they come from. It just matters what their blood type is.
It's beautiful. There's no reason for the separation to be as had as it is. And I feel like the media tends to keep us even more separated. I've had friends in other countries tell us things about our own country that we have no idea that's being said. And so here we are, the land of the free,
And the
but
whole
yet we
brave.
don't know. Go ahead.
I told somebody a lot of us on a daily basis. I really tried to not even look at a lot of it. And I noticed that for me, I've been going way deeper with spirit. And I think that is the purpose for all of that. Is for all of us to begin to connect. Connect just because they're not connected, they're disconnected. But for some of us to connect on a deeper level. And
Well,
to
yeah, because we're
really,
working on light. You're working on your light, and your people you're interviewing, you're working with their light. But the awesome thing about light is when light reflects, it expands. And so here we are just expanding our light. And the more we bring into community, that light just expands. And if we could turn off the sun and as we all glow and expand, like we wouldn't need it because we would just be just lighting up the world.
that is what we all want. It, to me, it's, what do they call it? Hashtag goals. Oh,
Yeah.
I have one question that I ask all of my guests. If there was anything in the world that you could change, what would that be and why?
I think that's a tough one, and I say that because it goes a lot on along the lines of if they ask you if you could go backwards and change anything, would you? And that's hard because I feel like everything and everyone is exactly where they're supposed to be. But if I had the opportunity to change something, I think it might be helping people, or I think I would want people to remember who they really are. Because if you could just remember that one thing, if I could make everybody just suddenly remember who they really are, yes, we would live in a whole different world.
Yes, we would.
It would not be this way.
I agree. I think I had one other person to say that recently. Because typically I don't get the same answers twice every now and again. I had one woman that said she wouldn't change anything. And then I explained that I asked that question because I want you to come with it. I don't want you to think hard. I want it to be whatever the first thing that comes to your head. This is what I would change. Even though, like you said, we can't really change anything. And sometimes we don't want to change ourselves. But there's some things I would love to change. Well, if I could. And so that's always the qualifier. If we could, if you could say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to change this. I had one young lady that said she would like to have all the babies that come in the world with a Welcome to Earth book with their human design and their natal charts. So that, and then was stuck in there to help the parents to raise them right and this and that and whatever with the, according to how they're designed. And I thought, amazing. That would be amazing. I said, "You want to start that serving?"
I think that the benefit, though, even though I agree, that would be amazing, especially if we teach parents how to start raising their children before they have children. But if we did that, then we really wouldn't have anything to learn from, right? We need obstacles for us to master in order to understand the difference. So I feel pain is vital. We just need to learn to understand that we're not having pain to make our life miserable. We have pain because it's alerting us to something that we aren't recognizing all on our own.
I could see that. But I do think that would be helpful though, because I think about it in this terms because I've already raised kids. My kids are old. My youngest will be 35 next month. And so I've done that. But I felt like it would have been amazing to have that information. Because even if you have that information, you're going to still have to go through and assimilate it. So you're going to still
Well,
have
humans, we're
experiences from it.
complicated. We're
We are.
complicated. And when you add another human into the mix, and maybe you're extra empathic or you're extra sensitive, right? Then you've amplified the challenges. You don't only have your own, now you have the feelings of somebody else in your environment, right? And we're complex beings. It's not easy.
No, it's not. But this has been amazing. I have enjoyed this interaction immensely. In the words of Abraham Hicks.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah, you are so welcome. It's been just amazing, the conversation. Definitely make sure that you are following Lori Marie. I will have all of her details in the show notes so you can click on her places where she is. Share with the people the best place to connect with you.
I think the best place to connect with me would be by emailing me at WHTSURSGN, which is what's your sign at gmail.com, or divine24.org. Those are the easiest ways to find me.
Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah, where the magic happens. I am just thrilled that you've listened or you've watched wherever you have. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe wherever you're listening to or watching, and make sure you download. Okay? And we are out. So thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you.